أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ثم الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه الأخيار أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We continue with the أقسام الإطناب. Inshallah, previously we've looked at the أقسام الإيجاز, and I'm sure that is well understood. If there is anything that is not understood, please you do well to put forth your questions, inshallah. So today we are looking at the أقسام الإطناب, the types of verbosity. It says الإطناب يكون بأمور كثيرة. Jamil, إطناب happens with a lot of cases, and in a lot of styles. And these styles are basically just what we are going to be doing today. So he says the first one is ذكر الخاص بعد العام. أي منها, a part of the أمور كثيرة, منها, among it is ذكر الخاص بعد العام. What will make a statement verbose or wordy is when you choose to mention specifics after mentioning the general. So you look at something like this. In our dua, we say ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. خلاص. Even with the وفي الآخرة حسنة, the وقنا عذاب النار is specific to the وقنا وفي الآخرة حسنة, because when you say وفي الآخرة حسنة, it means that you want good in the hereafter. So when you say وقنا عذاب النار, you are mentioning the specifics after mentioning the في الآخرة حسنة, which is general. So you mention that in the hereafter, may Allah be good to you or give you good. Then you mention again and protect you from hellfire. So even in that text of the dua, there is the ذكر الخاص بعد العام. Now, in our general dua, after saying ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار, then we go ahead and say ربنا زدنا علما, ربنا آتنا, or ربنا what do we even say? ربنا زدنا علما نافعا, ربنا أكرمنا, ربنا كذا, ربنا كذا. All the dua we say after that is khas to the ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة. Now if you say ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة, oh Allah, give us good in this world. If I should ask for knowledge, it enters in that. If I should ask for health, if I should ask for wealth, everything enters in the ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة. Or it is covered by the وفي الآخرة حسنة. So any specific I mentioned after this general, it makes it wordy. Not useless, it just makes it wordy, makes it verbose. So the ذكر الخاص بعد العام is one way of getting a statement to be wordy, or is one thing that makes a statement wordy. Wordy mana W-R-O-R-D-Y, W-O-R-D-Y, not worthy, T-H-Y. Mana is verbose. Says اجتهدوا في دروسكم واللغة العربية. اجتهدوا في دروسكم. Work hard in your lessons. Your lessons, the Lugha Arabiya is part of the lessons. It means the science, the maths, the fiqh, the hadith, the Lugha Arabiya, all of them. But then specifically, then it comes to واللغة العربية. And you work hard in your lessons in Arabic language. So mentioning the Arabic language, which is specific to the general, which is durusikum, makes it wordy. Jamil says وفائدته التنبيه على فضل الخاص. The benefit of this is to alert you on the virtue of the specific one that is mentioned. كأنه لرفعته جنس آخر مغاير لما قبله. It is as if saying that the لغة العربية, or the specific one you mentioned after the general, due to its value, due to its high rankingness, it has made it look like another body on its own. So it's like saying, sorry, it's like saying the whole durus is one thing and Lugha Arabiya is one thing. just to show its importance. Jamil, we have this in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 238. It's حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى. حافظوا على الصلوات. Yani be wary, be careful of your salat. Keep your salat. Be punctual with your salat. Then he says, وَالصَّلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى, and the middle salat. Yani ala salawat, it covers all. But when you say وَالصَّلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى, the middle salat has been singled out, just to create awareness on it. Jamil. So that is an example from the Quran. And then the second one, it says, وَمِنْهَا ذِكْرُ الْعَامِ بَعْدَ الْخَاصِ. Sometimes you mention the general after mention the specific. So sometimes you mention the father, the son, the mother, the uncle. Then you come to say the family. So if you mention the specifics before mentioning the general. Jamil. And then an example of that says, كَقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيَّ. Oh my Lord, forgive me, وَلِوَالِدَيَّ, and my parents, my two parents, father and mother, وَلِمَنْ دَخَلَ بَيْتِيَ مُؤْمِنًا, and anybody that enters my house as a believer. And then he says, وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ, for the believing men and the believing women. Now look at this. Al-mu'minuna wal-mu'minat, or as in the verse, وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ, doesn't that cover Rabbi Gfirli ana wal-walidayya, my two parents, and وَلِمَنْ دَخَلَ بَيْتِيَ مُؤْمِنًا, the one who enters my house as a believer? This covers the mu'minina wal-mu'minat, covers all this. So the specific were mentioned, myself, my parents, whoever enters our house as a believer, and then it says, and the believing men and believing women. So this also makes a statement verbose. It says, وَمِنْهَا الْإِيضَاحُ بَعْدَ الْإِبْهَامِ. Sometimes clarification after giving a vague statement makes it verbose as well. So if you don't go direct to give the clear statement and you give the vague one first and you bring the clarification, it makes the statement wordy. It says, for example, أَمَدَّكُمْ بِمَا تَعْلَمُونَ. We've seen this verse somewhere. أَمَدَّكُمْ بِمَا تَعْلَمُونَ, yani he provided you with what you know. Now the bima ta'alamun is what? Is what actually did he give us? Like you come to me and you say, I gave you what you need. And then you say, I gave you a car, I gave you money, I gave you that. You are now mentioning the specifics of the what you need. Because what you need is vague. It could be a lot of things. So when he says, Amaddakum bima ta'alamun, when he says, Amaddakum bi'an'amin wa banin, has given you livestock, he has given you children. So the amaddakum bi'an'amin now is clear specifically. Wa banin is also specific. The second verse comes as idah, clarification for the ta'lamun, bima ta'lamun, ma ta'lamun. It comes as a clarification for the bima ta'lamun. And this makes it wordy. So if it came amaddakum bi an'amin wa banin right away, then we wouldn't need two verses. Jamil. But for a purpose, the first one is mentioned and then the second one is mentioned to show you clearly that the thing that he gave you, you know it, and these are they. Jamil. Of course, don't forget to be reading Sheikh's Sharh. Then he says, وَمِنْهَا التَّقْرِيرُ لِغَرَضٍ. Part of it is also at-takrir. At-takrir is to affirm something, Jamil, or repeat something, like tikrar or takrar, as it's supposed to be said. Repeating something, and it's for a purpose, Jamil. It says, كَتُولِ الْفَصْلِ فِي قَوْلِهِ, like, we have a jumla mubtada, then we have habar, fi'l and fa'il. Then you realize that بينهما فصل طويل. Fasl is what? you bring a word or statement to in between the mubtada and khabar, or in between two words that are supposed to be together. You separate them so much so that if we don't take care, we will forget that the word you say after will be the khabar to this particular mubtada. So when I say al-waladu, then I say zahabtu ila madrasati kaza 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 kaza. I've not brought the khabar. I'm bringing different statements in between the al-waladu that I mentioned. Now I come to say tawilun. This tawilun, if you don't take care, you forget that there was a mubtada it has to link with to become the khabar. So what do? When you get to where you want to mention the khabar, then you say innahu, yani innahu, the walad that I mentioned. Then you mention the khabar. We have it in the Quran, the fasl, the tool fasl. Look at something like Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin fakirun. Inni is inna and ismu inna, right? Inna, ana. Making the inni. So Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin fakirun is the khabar of this, is khabar inna. But you see there was a lot of separation between the khabar inna and the ismu inna. So we call that tool al-fasl. So when there's tool al-fasl, sometimes it calls you to repeat something that will make the thing connect back to the where you want it connect to. For example, وَإِنَّ امْرَأً دَامَتْ مَوَاثِقُ أَهْدِهِ عَلَى مِثْلِ هَذَا. So look at it. Let me just show this first. This is supposed to be the khabaru inna. So it's supposed to be taking out the chaff or taking out the middle words. It will be وَإِنَّ امْرَأً دَامَتْ مَوَاثِقُهُ أو دَامَتْ مَوَاثِقُ أَهْدِهِ كَرِيمٌ. وَإِنَّ امْرَأً اسم إِنَّ دَامَتْ مَوَاثِقُ أَهْدِهِ كَرِيمٌ right away. But the way we look at it, then we bring عَلَى مِثْلِ هَذَا. Again, it makes it very long. If I say عَلَى مِثْلِ هَذَا كَرِيمٌ, you might not know that the karimun here is the khabar of this inna and this ism. So what happens? Look at it. It says وَإِنَّ امْرَأً دَامَتْ مَوَاثِقُ أَهْدِهِ عَلَى مِثْلِ هَذَا. Then it says إِنَّهُ لَكَرِيمٌ أي إِنَّ هَذَا الْمَرْء كَرِيمٌ. So what is happening? We've repeated the inna and the ism inna, which appears here as a domir. We've repeated it for a purpose, to connect back. جميل. It says وَكَزِيَادَةِ التَّرْغِيبِ فِي الْعَفْوِ فِي قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى. Again, you see the same family species of the word forgiveness being mentioned again in Surah Al-Taghabun, verse 14. So it is a ziyadatu targhib fil afw, to increase your desire for forgiveness. It says, Inna min azwajikum wa awladikum aduwwan lakum fahdharuhum. Indeed, among your children and among your spouses and among your children, there are enemies for you. Fahdharuhum, be wary of them. It says, wa in ta'afu, if you pardon, wa tasfahu, and you forgive, you pardon, wa tasfahu, you let go, wa tagfiru, and you forgive, fa inna Allah ghafurur rahim. So you look at it, wa in ta'afu, wa tasfahu, wa tagfiru. This repetition of the word with the same species, though they have specifics of their meanings, but they are repeated, they are mentioned again and again to increase your desire in forgiveness. Jamil. وَكَتَعْقِيدِ الْإِنذَارِ. And sometimes too, you warn somebody, then you repeat it. You do taqreer, as he said, all the taqreer here are for gharad. So you could see here that it is for a gharad because the ism inna and its ism has been separated too much. To connect it back, we need to repeat the inna and the ism. Likewise here, you can see that it is just to call your heart to the feeling of forgiveness. Because if you read وَإِن تَعْفُوا وَتَصْفَحُوا وَتَغْفِرُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ, you have to have a forgiving heart. else your heart is very corrupt. And then also كتأكيد الإنذار. Sometimes it is repeated to emphasize the warning. في قوله تعالى, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala statement, كلا سوف تعلمون. Then he says ثم كلا سوف تعلمون. Like you will know, nay, you will know. Then, nay, you will know, or you shall know. So this is to emphasize the warning. Sometimes we do the repetition to emphasize the warning. And all these things, they make it wordy. The repetition of innahu, it increases the words. Jamil, the in ta'fu wa tasfahu wa takfiru, it makes it wordy. Verbose, yani. And then when you say kalla sawfa ta'lamun, and the taqid al-inzar makes it wordy. Summa kalla sawfa ta'lamun. And the fifth one, ومنها al-i'tirad. You call something in Arabiya jumlatul i'tiradiyya. I think we've seen it following the lessons. I mentioned it a lot. Like the way we say something like Sayyidatuna Aisha radiyallahu anha. That sentence radiyallahu anha is not our goal. Say قالت عائشة رضي الله عنها إن كذا 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 كذا. Now the قالت and what she said is there, but in between I bring radiyallahu anha. This radiyallahu anha is jumla i'tiradiyya, is a kind of interfering sentence. So whenever you do i'tirad, it makes your statement verbose. What is i'tirad? He says وهو توسط لفظ بين أجزاء جملة أو بين جملتين مرتبطتين معنى لغرض. When we say al-i'tirad, it is when a word comes between the parts of sentence, mubtada and khabar, or fail and fa'il, or the word comes between jumlatayn, two sentences that are connected in meaning, murtabitatayn ma'nan, they are connected in meaning, and that is done ligharadin, for a purpose. Jamil. Let's look at some examples of i'tirad. Says inna thamanina وبلغتها قد أحوجت سمعي إلى ترجمان. Look at it here. Says إن الثمانين, indeed 80 years. Jamil. وبلغتها, and you've reached it. This وبلغتها is not really part of what I want to say. I want to say إن الثمانين قد أحوجت سمعي إلى ترجمان. So if I want to tell, I'm speaking with a friend who is also 80 years and I'm 80. So I'm like, I want to talk that, I want to tell him that indeed 80 years has made me in need of somebody to keep explaining what I hear to me. So somebody says, somebody has to repeat it or say it to me. So he says that in the thamanina, then he's looking at this friend of his who is also 80. Then he says, وَبُلِّغْتَهَا, and you've reached it. قد أحوجت سمعي إلى ترجمان. If not, the statement is إن ثمانين قد أحوجت سمعي إلى ترجمان. So this sentence here is اعتراض. You say جملة اعتراضية لا محل له من الإعراب. جميل. says ونحو قوله تعالى ويجعلون لله البنات Subhanahu وَلَهُمْ مَا يَشْتَهُونَ. In the Quran, these signs that you see, these two dashes, they are placed on the two sides of Jumla i'tiradiyya to show that it is not a part of the sentence. You see it whenever you see it, like whenever you are writing, you write قال عمر بن الخطاب, then you say رضي الله عنه, you put that in the two dashes to show it's i'tiradiyya. Any Jumla i'tiradiyya is placed there. But in the Quran, these things are not there. Because he picked it as an example, he wants to show us clearly which one is the Jumla i'tiradiyya. Says وَيَجْعَلُونَ لِلَّهِ الْبَنَاتِ, the ayah goes Subhanahu وَلَهُمْ مَا يَشْتَهُونَ. So if you take this i'tiradiyya out, وَيَجْعَلُونَ لِلَّهِ الْبَنَاتِ وَلَهُمْ مَا يَشْتَهُونَ, yani they make Allah to have daughters. Then he says glory be to Allah, yani Allah is above all that, Subhanahu. وَلَهُمْ مَا يَشْتَهُونَ, yani whatever they are desiring, they would have it. And it's a kind of warning. So when you look at it, you realize that this came in the two parts of the sentence that two sentences that are مرتبطتين معنى. And then part of the things that make a statement verbose, number 6, says التذييل. التذييل is where you say something, then you add another expression after it. That is giving the statement a ذيل. You know, ذيل is what? Tail. ذيل is tail. So giving a statement a tail also makes it verbose. The tail means you add an expression to it. It says وهو تعقيب الجملة بأخرى, following a sentence up with another sentence. تشتمل على معناها, that contains its meaning. So I say something here, then I add another which reflects the meaning of the first one. تعقيدا لها, as an emphasis to it. وهو, and it comes in different shapes. That is, I think, two main shapes. إما أن يكون جاريا مجرى المثل. Sometimes the second statement I mentioned is a proverb. So I say something like, go to school. Or let me say, I say something like, Ya Muhammad, go to school because school is important. Then I say, education is the key. Education is the key is a proverb. It's like a wise saying, Jamil. So if I do ta'qib of my statement with a mathal, then we say this at-tadhilu yajri majral mathal. So let's look at it. إما أن يكون جاريا مجرى المثل لاستقلال معناه واستغنائه عما قبله. When it is جاريا مجرى المثل, then the second statement is independent. Like I say, go to school, school is important, education is the key. Education is the key is جملة مستقلة أو قول مستقل, is an independent statement. It doesn't depend on the first one. Yani you can take education is the key alone and put it somewhere and it is understood. So it is a mathal because it is independent of itself. It doesn't even need what comes before it. استغنائه عما قبله. It doesn't need what comes before it to even give a meaning. كقوله تعالى, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلُ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. So look at this first one. Say, the truth has come and the falsehood is meant to perish or vanish. And then he says, إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. This إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا is like a parable, or it's like a wise saying. Or it is a wise saying, it's a method. You could put it alone. إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. You can say it everywhere. That falsehood is bound to vanish. Anywhere there is falsehood, it does not gain root. It has to vanish at the end of the day. So, but then the two, it has been used as a veil, as a tail for the first expression here. So, وَقُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلُ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. It's just like we have in some abiyat where he says, تَبْغِي النَّجَاةَ وَلَمْ تَسْلُكْ طَرِيقَتَهَا إِنَّ السَّفِينَةَ لَا تَجْرِي عَلَى الْيَبَسِ. You want success, but you don't want to take its part. Then he says, indeed, the ship does not move on dry land. So if you want something, use its part. So where he says, تَبْغِي النَّجَاةَ وَلَمْ تَسْلُكْ طَرِيقَتَهَا, this is a statement, and then he does tazyil of it with إِنَّ السَّفِينَةَ لَا تَجْرِي عَلَى الْيَبَسِ. Now this إِنَّ السَّفِينَةَ لَا تَجْرِي عَلَى الْيَبَسِ is a parable, it's a mathal. Jamil. We have it even in the some abiyat like that. Let me see. النهر. I have to get this bait for us here. You are اصبر على says اصبر على مدد الحصود فإن صبرك قاتله. اصبر على مدد الحصود أو اصبر على حسد الحصود. Be patient over the schemes of the envious one. فإن صبرك قاتله. Because your patience kills that person. Somebody is trying to harm you, but you are seeing the person, you don't attack, you are calm and all that. That patience, or somebody is insulting you, the person is expecting you to reply and all that, you don't reply, that thing kills the person. Then look at how the tazil he does. He says, فَالنَّارُ تَأْكُلُ بَعْضُهَا الْبَعْضِ إن لم تجد ما تأكله. The firewood, you set fire and you put your firewood, you put kerosene, you set your fire. This wood catches fire. It will keep eating itself. If you don't put something on it to burn it, the fire, it will burn itself till it finishes. So النار إن لم تجد ما تأكله تأكل نفسها تأكل بعضها بعضها. So he says, be patient over the envy of the envious one, because your patience kills the person. Then he says, because fire, if it doesn't get what to burn, it burns itself. So this فَالنَّارُ تَأْكُلُ بَعْضُهَا الْبَعْضِ إِن لَمْ تَجِدْ مَا تَأْكُلُهُ is a method that he has used as a zail for this one. Jamil. So that is the first style of tazil. The second one is وَإِمَّا أَن يَكُونَ غَيْرَ جَارٍ مَجْرَى الْمَثَل. Sometimes it's not the mathal kind of way. Sometimes the second sentence cannot stand alone. It has to be connected with the first. لِعَدَمِ اسْتِغْنَائِهِ أَمَّا قَبْلَهُ, because it's not independent. It needs the sentence before it. كقوله تعالى, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's statement, ذَلِكَ جَزَيْنَاهُمْ بِمَا كَفَرُوا وَهَلْ نُجَازِي إِلَّا الْكَفُورِ. So the verse says that ذَلِكَ جَزَيْنَاهُمْ, that is what we rewarded them with, or that is how we rewarded them. بِمَا كَفَرُوا, due to their disbelief. It's وَهَلْ نُجَازِي إِلَّا الْكَفُورِ. But would we reward anybody with this, yani this kind of punishment, except the kuffar? It is the kuffar that we do this kind of punishment to. So that is how we punish the kuffar. And do we punish anybody except the kuffar? No, except the kuffar that we punish. We don't punish anyone. But this وَهَلْ نُجَازِي إِلَّا الْكَفُورِ, it doesn't stand alone. It is a question that builds up from ذَلِكَ جَزَيْنَاهُمْ بِمَا كَفَرُوا وَهَلْ نُجَازِي إِلَّا الْكَفُورِ. So the second one is not a parable. It's dependent. It's a question emanating from the first one. Jamil. And then it says number 7 of how the إطناب comes about. Al-ihtiras. Al-ihtiras is being wary, caution. You have statements, when you read them, it says ihtirasan an kada, yani being careful of this. You say something to show clarity. وهو أن يؤتى في كلام يوهم خلاف المقصود بما يدفعه. Ihtiras is for you to bring something in the kalam, a kalam يوهم خلاف المقصود. So you have said a statement. The statement gives the meaning of something different, not what you intend. So you bring in the statement something that will push away يدفع الفهم الموهم الفهم الخطأ، يعني يدفع عنك هذا الخطأ في الفهم. So if I say a statement and you are trying to understand it wrongly, أنا أدخل في الجملة، يعني أعرف إذا قلت هذا الكلام بهذه الصيغة ربما تفهم غير مقصود، غير ما أقصده أنا، فلذلك أدخل في الجملة كلمة أو عبارة تدفع هذا الإيهام أو تدفع هذا الوهم. جميل. So in that case, my statement is going to confuse you. Then I introduce a word that will push away this confusion. Like a very good example here. فسقى ديارك غير مفسدها صوب الربيع وديمة تهمي. صوب, let's start from the beginning. Saqa is to irrigate, to pour water for. Jamil. Diyar is the abode. And then the jumla continues from here. Soub is rain. Allahumma sayyiban nafi'an, as we say every day. Ar-Rabi' is the spring, the rain of the spring season. Dimatun is a persistent rain, a rain that continues for long. Tahmi, pouring. So he says that the Sawbur Rabi' and the Dimatun Tahmi, the downpour of the spring season, and the consistent rain that is pouring down has irrigated your house. سقى ديارك. جميل. سقى ديارك صوب الربيع وديمة تهمي. Now, the صوب الربيع and ديمة, persistent rain. If I say سقى ديارك صوب الربيع وديمة تهمي, somebody might think, oh, then the house is in trouble. There could be flooding because persistent rain and صوب الربيع is a heavy downpour. So the house is in danger. Then he puts this expression here. غير مفسدها. يعني دي صوب الربيع وديمة تهمي غير مفسدها, غير مفسد الديار. فسقى ديارك صوب الربيع وديمة تهمي غير مفسد الديار. To show you that no, this persistent rain and this water of the Rabi, it is not one that destroys the house. So we call this ihtiras. And being careful, protecting the sentence from being understood wrongly. Jamil. So this brings us to the end of Ilm al-Ma'ani. You see that the Sheikh's expression, everything ends here. And then what comes here is the As'ilatul Talaba li Sheikh. I told you he's a teacher with students, basic students. So when he teaches, they ask questions, he answers. So for your own good, you can read through the questions and answers here. You can read through the questions and answers, inshallah, and it will be very beneficial. But generally, aside the questions and answers, we are done with Ilm al-Ma'ani, and we go to Ilm al-Bayan in our next episode. Till we meet again on that particular lesson, don't forget to be revising very well. Make sure everything in Ilm al-Ma'ani, you know it and Zahr Qalb. You know it by heart. So that going forward, you can build very well. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to put it forth. And thanks for the prayers and all that. May Allah keep us strong, grant us long life and more goodness. We should do a lot of khairat, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.